The first ever WWE King of the Ring pay-per-view back in 1993. The retro review is the show for you here today. Myself, NX Steve, and Tino's time are in the house. We're going to be going through the show, giving our review of it. And of course, for me, I'm going to say one of my favorite shows growing up. There may be some rose-tinted glasses, but I'm going to say the gentlemen with me are going to be more than firm and fair through the middle. So let's not waste any time. Get straight into it. NX Steve, your thoughts of King of the Ring 1993. A quick overview.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't really have a lot of issues with it, which is surprising for me because I normally find loads of stuff wrong with these shows, but thoroughly enjoyed.
Fantastic. Tina, what's your overall thoughts of this show?
So it was the first time I actually ever watched it, and we were talking a little bit after, like before we started recording, about how like I figured out where the Bret Hart thing was, like the Bret Hart figure was from and everything else like that. And I thought it was like really good, and we'll talk about some matches that like I obviously slimmed through, but there were a lot more matches I think I enjoyed throughout the show than I thought I actually would, because sometimes these older pay-per-views are like, and we talked about it, it's just like, I don't know, it's not the same as it was, and it's harder to watch these older shows. So I enjoyed it, though.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm going to say I enjoyed this show overall. I think it's a fun time, and obviously King of the Ring at this point was very fresh. They've had Kings in the past before this, but King of the Ring tournament, 91 they did do it. They do say this is the first time ever. They did do it in 1991, and of course Bret Hart did win that as well. But it was a house show, I believe in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. However, this is the first televised King of the Ring pay-per-view, a one-night tournament, 8 men involved. It is the main intro package of the show as well. Vince McMahon hyping up this, so we can see the brackets there for you. What we've got Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon. We've got Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes, Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Bam Bam Bigelow, and Tatanka, one of my favorites from the early days, taking on the narcissist Lex Luger. And you can see the brackets there of how you can make your way to the final and to become King of the Ring. And just for those that like to have that little bit of detail as well, previously from this show, this took place on June the 13th, 1993. So at the time recording, nearly 31 years ago. Man, I'm old. This was in Fairborn, Ohio. And the venue probably suits myself pretty well, the Nutter Center. And the attendance was 6,500. There is a tagline for this show as well. Who will be king? Be part of the coronation. Interesting stuff indeed. And the buy rate as well was 245,000. The commentary team of the night was a trio. We've got Jim Ross, Bobby Heenan, and a Macho Man, Randy Savage. Oh yeah,
Macho Man just seemed like he hated life, and he was just, I remember, I forgot who I talked to, but he just seemed like he was done. He's just like, this is BS. And then he had the obsession with the fact that Yokozuna won. He talked about it nonstop. It's like, bro, are you that mad or what's going on here?
I was going to ask your thoughts in the commentary. Yeah, I mean, Macho, he didn't let that go. One thing I would say, I will give a bit of praise to Savage as well, though, in the commentary, because he really hyped up what this King of the Ring tournament meant on the evening. He seemed to try and hype up each and every match, every sort of round we went through, with the importance, what it means. It's got to be worth a title shot at the end. You know what I mean? It's got something special had to become with it. NXT, what did you think of the commentary trio?
Yeah, dude, Bobby the Brain Heenan come out with some of the greatest lines I've ever heard from color commentary tonight. I'll say them as we go along. There's two that are just beautiful, but specifically the Luger Tatanka match, like those three together towards the end of that match were just phenomenal. The final third, like they really, for me, added a lot of quality to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like you can't go wrong with Bobby, you can't go wrong with Macho Man, you definitely can't go wrong with JR. It's just a great lineup.
It was a superb lineup. I really enjoyed listening to these three throughout the show. But hey, we're going to get and dive straight into the say we had the video package. Not too much of anything really to shout home about. It was more just to hype up the opening, the tournament. So let's go into the opening match of the evening, and not too shabby. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Razor Ramon kicks off the evening, and of course this match here. Well, Bret sort of focuses early on Razor's left arm, multiple arm drags being used. Submission holds as well, including a hammerlock. But Razor managed to take advantage of throwing Bret shoulder first into the ring post. Razor lands his full away slam, gets a 2 count for his efforts, and then lands a running power slam, a bit like a British Bulldog if you want, 2 count as well for that effort. Razor then misses a simple elbow drop, which leads to Bret Hart making a comeback. Bret Hart lands a Russian leg sweep and also a backbreaker, again getting a 2 count on both occasions. And what's something very special about a lot of the 2 counts in this match, very actually connected with modern wrestling because a lot of the 2 counts were quite long 2 counts. It was close to freeze, but they were always kicking out right at the very end, added the drama, added the excitement. Bret though actually does a bulldog attempt. It's countered, he gets thrown into the buckle. No one does it quite like Bret. Razor goes for his Razor's Edge. Bret counters, uses the buckle to flip himself back over, and then gets into a small package. It's a 2 count. Razor then actually goes and gets out of it, attempts a back suplex from the turnbuckle, but again countered. Bret landing on top of him like a smash, if you will, and gets the 3 count. A very good opener, in my opinion, between these two. I'll start with Tino. Your thoughts of Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon?
I thought it was great, and I thought it was a great way to start off the show with 2 people that that are great and that we obviously know. And I just really enjoyed the match, and it was honestly, as like I said the first time for watching it, it was a match that like kind of got me to keep watching because like I kind of we were talked about it before we started recording too. I kind of have a hard time sometimes watching these and I fall asleep. So that match kind of got me into it and kept me going for the rest of the show. So I really enjoyed it. I was, and for a match that was only 10 minutes because back in these days the matches weren't too long and we saw them very short. So 10 minutes felt like it was a lot. Like it felt like a longer match than 10 minutes, I should say. So I really enjoyed it. And do I give a star rating too?
We'll hold on to those to the end
okay.
Once we go through together. But what I would say is that I like the fact that because that's what the opener's meant to do, to sort of say, right, I'm here for the show now. I'm not tuning out after this. I like that from Tino there. And Steve, what were your thoughts with this opening match between Razor Ramon and Bret Hart?
Just a simply fantastic show. A simply fantastic opener. You can't go wrong with Razor Ramon. You can't go wrong with Bret Hart. Especially with the fact that the crowd are playing off the fact that Razor recently lost to the 1-2-3 Kid, and that was a big deal about it as well. And this for me is where Bobby just adds that brilliant bit of commentary, and he goes, if Bret Hart set an alarm call for a wake-up call and they phone him at 23 minutes past 1, they'd say, hey Bret, it's 1-2-3, and he'd kick out at 2. I was like, dude, Bobby is just cracked. I laughed so hard I had to replay it twice to listen to it again. It was fantastic, and it just cracked me up from the word go, and it just so added to how much I enjoyed the opening match. It's just a great way to open the show. You can't go wrong. Like it's just good, man. There's nothing wrong with the quality that I'm seeing. Like it just, I'll tell you what, I'll say this early. This is a perfectly planned pay-per-view. Like the way it is set up and tiered, and how every match is got its place on the card, perfect tonight. Can't argue with it. Yeah, just a good match, man.
It is just a good match. I mean, the thing is, this is a rematch as well. These two of us have previous chemistry working together. They were a part of the championship match at the Royal Rumble in 1993 when Bret Hart was the champion, and they had double the time, and they had a great match. It's actually seen as one of the best matches in Bret's title reign, obviously seen as one of the best matches probably in Razor's career as well. So these two have done it before and obviously had less time here, but made it work really, really well. A bit more of a fast-paced opener, working on body parts. I like the psychology. I like the storytelling. You mentioned about the commentary. Bobby Heenan, the GOAT, I think it's fair to say. There's just nothing to dislike about this match. It's a fast-paced one. It gets you hooked in, and it's what the King of the Ring is all about. If you're going to do everything in one night, which is this is an 8-man tournament, give us everything in the open and make us hooked from the off, and you couldn't go wrong with these two. But as Tino said, this is like a 10-minute match. In fact, 10 minutes and 25 seconds. So let's not waste some time. Get around with those star ratings. Tino, what's your star rating for Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon?
What do we got, a 5 or 10?
Out of 5, please.
Okay, out of 5. I'm gonna say like a 4 out of 5.
I think that's fair. And Steve, what would be your rating?
I went with a 3 just because the way I've scaled this pay-per-view, I went for a 3. I thought this was okay, but there's definitely some better matches. So I've kind of gone just above sort of halfway for me.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go on the side of NXT, Steve. I think that this arguably, I could have gone in the middle, to be fair, but I feel like there is a couple of matches on this show, particularly one that I think just knocks this one to the side. But I mean, obviously, this is a great way to start a show. This is good fun. And yeah, for me, I would say definitely go out of your way to watch this match if you have not seen it on this show. Quickly give a shout out to Mike. Habs Mike in the house.
What's up, Mike?
Shout out. He says Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect was the match of the night. Wink, wink. Slight notch below their SummerSlam 91 match. Obviously, these two had history as well, which kind of gives away a spoiler if you didn't know who was going to win the next match. But hey, we probably won't spend too long on it anyway. Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes. We had a video package for Mr. Hughes where he's helping the Giant Gonzalez actually get the better of the Undertaker. Was Paul Bear was knocked down, and of course the Undertaker was knocked down with his urn thanks to Mr. Hughes as well. It's quite as painful as it sounds for 1993. But anyway, going into the match itself, Mr. Hughes, what I was give early doors, impressive speed on him, and Harvey Wippleman was by his side. He was actually countered into an arm drag earlier in the match where I thought he was going to go flying through the ropes, to be fair. But he then goes to a very basic offense when he takes control of the match. Some punches, big boot, rest holds, your larger heel, if you want, of the mid-90s. That's a bit, I suppose, I say limited. But we get a video package of Bret Hart in the background. Who do you want in the match? He says that he wants Mr. Perfect because you have this sort of knockdown, drag out match if you want, or you can have this technical match. And he feels he fancies more of a technical match, so he would favor Mr. Perfect. Those words might bite Bret later in this show. But Hughes then attempts to lift Perfect up from the ropes, but I don't know, both of the men kind of fall for what it was attempted. It seemed a bit of a botch, if I'm going to be honest. It needed to be called out. But Perfect makes a comeback, but before Perfect can hit the Perfect Plex, and Mr. Hughes uses the urn to hit Perfect for the DQ finish. Yes, an absolute shambles of a finish. However, if you're building Mr. Hughes to take on the Undertaker, you can't have him losing clean here. So I guess the DQ was the way to go to get Mr. Perfect to qualify through to the semifinals. And Steve, get your thoughts on this match first.
Yeah, I mean, dude, literally the first note I made was, wow, Hughes has got some serious speed to him. Like, almost reminds me kind of what we got now with Keith Lee. Like, very similar, like, size, speed, athleticism. Just like you were not expecting it, like, from a guy that I don't even remember. So always good to see. The match itself for me, very TV quality. Felt like it didn't really go above that. The picture-in-picture commentary, like the interview during the match, I thought, do you know what? That's actually kind of cool. I like that. I think that's something they should probably bring back, like especially with the way that the tournament's set up, and it's kind of like instead of having Bret sit on commentary. So I really appreciated that. The finish, it's essentially a perfect finish for it because, like you said, they're trying to build Mr. Hughes up. He's just taken out the Undertaker with the urn, so it was kind of the safest possible way to finish this match. The only thing I will add is from that video package before the match, I forgot how every 90s wrestler was just like, yeah, slow head nods. Everything's a slow head nod. Yeah, just, man, proper retro. But just otherwise, just a bang average TV match for me for this one.
Fair play to that there. Tino, what would be your thoughts then, Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes?
Yeah, see, I agree with Steve on that, where it's just a TV match, where it's like, it was, and now that I actually know, because I was kind of confused on why they were doing that, but now that makes sense why they were building him up to face the Undertaker. So now that, like, that makes sense, like, why it was DQ'd. But we talked about this, too. The DQ finishes, I don't know, they just loved doing that back in the day. The DQs, the draws, the this, the that, the elimination, the buys. Like, I remember watching WrestleMania 4 with the tournament, and there was, like, 4 buys, and somebody was disqualified. Just like, what is going on with these tournaments? But, I mean, they got the job done. Mr. Perfect won, and, they protected him, and, so.
They got Bret Hart, who we wanted anyway, Mr. Perfect in the semi-final. Let's be fair, it's the match we wanted as well. Nothing against Mr. Hughes, but a former bodyguard of Chris Jericho as well in the Attitude Era, for those that want as well. So, he does make a comeback. But Mr. Perfect does qualify for this. I kind of agree with the guys saying here. I think this is, unfortunately, there's not much to bring home about. It's a TV quality match, but I would actually just go one step further. It's a TV quality match for 1993. I think that it sets the time frame, the period exactly for what it is. You're not gonna be finding anything spectacular out this match, but I wouldn't say it's entirely horrible either. But NXT, I've got you first. Your star rating for Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes. There's a lot of misters there.
For me, a TV quality match gets my TV quality rating. It gets 2 stars.
Fair play for that. Tino?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I was going to say 2. For
me, I'm going to go for 1.5. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling this one as
He's
much.
a menace today. He don't care. He's that we being savage on these matches.
We got to do what we got to do. This was 6 minutes and 2 seconds long, and just looking at
Wait,
Dave's.
it lasted that long? I thought it was only like 4 because I was playing Xbox and I did like an inning of baseball and it was already over. Shoot, I didn't know it was that long. I thought it was shorter.
Well, I can tell you Dave Meltzer's rating was 1 1/4 star rating, so he was a bit harsh on this one. I can't remember if I mentioned the Bret versus Razor one. He gave a 3-star rating for that match as well. So actually shared myself and NX Steve. So that's our thoughts there of that match then with Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Hughes. And just to make sure that I'm not missing anything from backstage, which I would be, Mean Gene Okerlund. Gotta love Mean Gene. Not with hotline on this one, but he's with Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji backstage, and pretty much Mr. Fuji claims that Hogan cheated and stole the title at WrestleMania 9. You're not lying there, Fuji. You're the babyface, really. Yoko is bigger and wiser this time round, gone up to 550 pounds from 500. And Yoko says that Hogan and Americans are going down. Of course, getting that heel foreign heat for the time period.
Yoko with the worst broken Japanese accent I've ever heard in my life. Like he's meant to be like Japanese that's trying to speak bad American, and it was horrible.
He should have been in the bloodline, if you ask me, Tino.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Your thoughts of Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji's interview?
Oh, I mean, I just like I honestly like I was very interested. I think that might have been like the first time I actually paid attention to an interview with them, because as like when we watch it here on the live streams, like it's hard for me sometimes to hear because I don't want to get yelled at by YouTube and with the copyrights, so I don't have it up too high. But it was entertaining to listen to it, and it was, you know, I like that they did that, especially for people that they maybe not have watched it before, like as me, like watching it for the first time. It's nice to know that they still I didn't know they did interviews like that back then, you know. So
there's a lot more attention to detail on those older shows, I think, compared to the newer. Like you get the video package, but I think you're expected to have followed a lot of the journey that you get to where you're meant to be. Where I think they do seem to capture a lot of things, but some adding a fresher layer of something new as well. But hey, saying the Americans are going down, Tina, you couldn't have been okay with that. But certainly in the next match, someone could have put that right. Good old Hacksaw Jim Duggan going into the King of the Ring tournament, tough guy, going against Bam Bam Bigelow. A pretty simple story for this match, not a long one. Pretty much takes 3 clotheslines for Duggan to get the big man Bam Bam down. However, Hacksaw tries to go for a scoop slam, fails, and he's got injured ribs. I'm not sure if there's a story going on, the cause of trying to go for the slam. However, it leads to his downfall because Bam Bam focuses on those ribs, starting with a good old-fashioned bear hug. We see Duggan then attempt to slam, but then Bam Bam lands on top of him for a 2 count. Duggan would eventually land the slam. Of course, that's the story of the match. He then follows this with attempting with a 3-point stance, of course, which it goes to his finishing move, but instead hits the buckle head first. Bam Bam then hits his headbutt from the top rope to secure the victory. Short and sweet as you like. This match, I believe, is only 4 minutes and 59 seconds, so less than 5 minutes this one. Tino, I'll get your thoughts on this one. I think this is a bit of a short and sweet message, but it delivered its story that it needed to in those 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I personally, like, I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and he was actually one of the first people, like, my great uncle used to watch. So he was like always like the guy kind of, and he came out, like, I thought it was cool. He came out with and beat people with a 2x4, and I always loved Bam Bam. So it was good for 4 minutes and 59 seconds. I actually enjoyed this match pretty much. So it was, you know, but the 2 guys going out there and just doing it, and it was. I did not know Bam Bam won. Like at first, like I thought like Hacksaw, like, you know, so like I said, first time watching it, it's nice because then I don't know who wins these matches, so I'm just going into it like I don't know, you know, because some of these you watch them so much, you're like, well, I've seen this already, like come on, you know, so
it's nice to have the unpredictable feel, obviously, when it comes to this, and I think that's always a good.
There you go, unpredictable. I couldn't think of the word.
Absolutely, and Steve, your thoughts of Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Bam Bam Bigelow?
Do you know what? I marked this up slightly just on the pure fact that Jim Duggan is some of the best selling of the night. Like his ribs he was trying to sell was like that's the best selling I've seen so far of the show. Yeah. There's obviously some better selling throughout the night, but for the fact for someone like Duggan to sell the ribs like that, I was like impressed by the fact that someone that, do you know what I mean? He's one of the oldest on the roster at this point. Do you know what I mean? But he's still doing the little bits like that. The only other thing I had issue with is why does Duggan bite Bam Bam? He's meant to be the face, and yet he's bitten Bam Bam's nose. And I'm like, that's kind of a weird booking situation. But yeah, otherwise it was okay. Like I said, it's a short match. I'll give you my early match rating prediction. I went with a 2. I was going to give it a 1.75 apart from Duggan selling his rib injury. I thought, I'll mark him up slightly for that. So I went with TV quality again for me, 2 stars.
Yeah, and the thing is, ultimately, I would agree with you. I'm going to give the star rating early as well. I'm going to agree with it on 2 stars because it's TV quality match. But the thing is, though, they tell the story in a nice, neat way in a short time. I agree with the selling of Hacksaw. Bam Bam, for me, is underrated. One of the best big men of all time. I think the way that he can move around for such a big guy, so agile. He can play the power game really well. He comes off the top rope. This guy is, he's immense. And obviously, he's got the look as well, obviously, with the fire sort of on his costume ring attire with the tattooed head as well. Bam Bam looks like one of those ultimate heels, if you will. And the thing that's really clever about this, it's a quick finish. And when you lead to the narrative of the night, this actually turns out to be a bit of genius booking when you think about it. And Tina will be a star rating for Bam Bam and Hacksaw.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys. I was gonna maybe give it like a 2.5 just because I like the 2 of them, but I mean, so I'll just give it a 2 and I'll just agree with what you guys got to say. But It did what it needed to do. And like you said, Bam Bam has always been one of those great, I want to know how he tattooed his head. I feel like that would hurt. I have no tattoos. I've always wanted one, but I feel like getting it right in your head would not feel so good.
The head is not the best place for a tattoo, trust me.
Yeah. Seems a painful idea. There was a dark side of the ring of Bam Bam Bigelow. I have seen it before, but unfortunately, I don't remember the detail maybe of why he would have that. But hey, we'll go into the star rating for Mr. Dave Meltzer. And well, he's a lot more harsh than we are tonight, ladies and gentlemen. A 1/4 star rating for Hacksaw and Bam.
Shut up. Wow.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Okay, fair enough, Dave.
Fair enough. We're getting in Terry Taylor in the backstage with the Steiner Brothers and the Smoking Guns. This is a waste of time to talk about, really. They're all excited and confident, and they feel they will win if they hit their finishing moves. That's basically it. It's a waste of our time, really. But hey, I suppose if you would hit your finishing move, you would expect to win the match. Perhaps, I don't know. We move on to the final quarterfinal of the first round of the King of the Ring tournament. Tatanka versus the narcissist Lex Luger. And I will give a little bit of my feelings as I kind of go through the detail. Probably shouldn't be doing that, but I will anyway. I kind of felt like the first 2 or 3 minutes were the most exciting part of this match, but that's just me. The referees basically forced Lex Luger to put on an elbow pad to cover his arm, which he'd been using as a weapon because he has screws and steel plates in it holding that arm together. He's been using it as a weapon, which gets him to win matches. So they didn't want him to have the advantage here in the King of the Ring. So if he didn't wear it, he would forfeit his place in the tournament. So he was forced to wear it. So I like that little detail came in. Of course, he has the big mirror in the ring because he's still the narcissist at this point. So he's posing in front of that. Tatanka comes out and this match just kicks off before the bell can even ring. Tatanka's thrown over the top rope so Luger can pose in front of that mirror. However, Tatanka comes back into the ring and pushes the mirror on top of Luger. Nice stuff. Clothesline though from Luger over the top rope. He slams to the floor. We didn't get to see Bam Bam's opinion of who he wants in the next round. He wants Tatanka in the next round of the King of the Ring tournament. However, I think if Bam Bam had his way, really, he might be happy with the result of this match. Luger works on Tatanka, multiple chin locks and low offense. Tatanka eventually does make a comeback with a power slam for 2 counts. We then see Tatanka land a tomahawk chop from the top. Again, only a 2 count. Misses with a crossbody as well from the top rope. Luger hits a power slam. Again, a 2 count. And again, the 2 counts are done quite well in this match, if I'm being honest. Left quite close to the 3. Excuse me. Luger then slowly hitting his offense towards the end because we're being told about the time going to be cutting out. Not in ring, but commentary making reference of how long is left. And it's like, come on, you've got not so much time left. You need to get to your moves. You need to get your call, get your pinfalls, try and get the victory. Luger just slows the pace right down, hits a backbreaker, very slow, goes to the 2 count, very slow. The bell rings, the time limit expires, and neither man goes through, and Bam Bam makes it to the final, not the semis. Excuse me. Apologies. Luger wants 5 more minutes, and the fans go wild. Heel move, not, it's more of a babyface move. Tatanka though was not looking, and Luger uses his elbow pad and hits Tatanka from behind. And Steve, your thoughts of this match?
when you told me we were going to be reviewing this, and I looked at the Wikipedia page that says we get a Luger Tatanka match go 15 minutes for a draw. Honestly, I was like, what am I going to be watching here? I am quite happy to say I was very pleased by this match. Like, this was, do you know what? Just even from the start with Luger having to wear the elbow pad, I think is a great story beat. And again, something we don't see in modern times, but the fact that the referees are forcing him to wear the elbow pad is a great shout. I don't remember Tatanka being that big of a fan favorite back in the day either. So the crowd being behind him so badly for it was great. I enjoyed, like, I didn't feel this match really suffered at any point. Like, I think it had an explosive start, a cool calm in between. Maybe the end could have been a bit more high paced, but I think, like I said earlier with the commentary team, they really added to the intensity of the last final minutes and trying to get the pinfall. Bobby Heenan has my second great bit of commentary for the night, where he talks about Tatanka going on to face Bam Bam if he advances, and he was like, oh, Bam Bam's got a cowboy ancestry with Buffalo Bill Bigelow, and I'm like, what is this? What is this 90s commentary about? But yeah, I just thought, like, it was great, and the post match as well, where Luger beats him down with a forearm. I was like, dude, that's a great way to set up another match between these two for a 15-minute time limit draw. Thoroughly enjoyed this. I really liked it.
Fair play. And obviously these two are undefeated at the time in WWE as well. I should make mention to Tina was obviously watching the show for the first time, not been following it. So Tatanka, I think, debuted early 92 at this point. So I think he's about 16 months into his undefeated run. Lex Luger actually debuted at the Royal Rumble earlier that year. Still was undefeated. So, yeah, he had actually been with the company a lot longer, but I think as the Master System came in at the start of 93. So both were undefeated. So this obviously protects both guys in the finish by neither man going through. But what were your thoughts with this 15-minute time limit draw?
I mean, I really enjoyed it, like, throughout the whole match, and like that, it was kind of funny to I laughed a little out loud when I realized they literally were like they were trying to have something protect him because he was too muscular in his arm and all. I was just like, that's great. I just thought that was funny. And then when he took it off at the end and he knocked him out, he knocked that guy out. He went night-night. He wasn't coming back. And I thought it was good. It was a good 15-minute match. And I was mad that it ended in a draw because I still don't understand these draws. And I don't understand why they get an automatic bye. I get it. But now that you say they were both undefeated, again, that makes sense because that was something I did not know. But, I don't know. I don't like draws and DQs. Those drive me insane, no matter if it's now, back then, early, whatever it was. I like clean finishes. And it was funny because I was watching it. I didn't look up any results. I was like, I swear, if this match ends like one of the matches, I'm like, if it ends in a draw, I'm going to scream. So when it ended clean, I was so happy. But I mean, I thought it was a good match for 15 minutes and it kept my attention. And that was more or less what I was looking for with this because I have a bad attention span with some things. So it's like, keeping my attention, it must be good then. So these two were, yeah. And as Steve said, Tatanka, I didn't realize he was such a big baby. I thought Tatanka always just came back in 2006 because I wasn't born in that. In 2006 was the first time I ever saw Tatanka. So I always remember him come out in the Royal Rumble and then he was there for a little bit and then that was it of him. So
yeah. It was a very big deal at this point, and Nick Steve always used to sort of laugh at me when I said this because one of my early favorite wrestlers. I liked Bret Hart, I liked Shawn Michaels, but Tatanka was the one that stood out for me. I was like, I don't know what it was. It was like the red mohawk, but the fact he was undefeated, there was win each and every week. At that point, the momentum was really behind him. He went on to be undefeated for I think about another 4 to 5 months. Unfortunately, the choice of wrestler wasn't the right wrestler to put him down in the end. He was beaten by a Finnish gimmick wrestler, Ludwig Borger, pinned Tatanka with one finger when actually that was done as well. Yes, it was a very brutal way to end it. But Ludwig Borger was actually fired from the company like less than 6 months after that. So not really a great move in the long term. But hey, it's what it is. But for this match here, I would turn around and say that I do think the middle for me is I was relying, commentary was helping me through it. I did find it a bit slow in places, but I will say that I liked the drama of what built the match in the start, and I do think that for a 50-minute time limit draw, this made a lot of sense on the card. And like I say, Bam Bam now getting the bye through to the final. When you think about the fact that Bret then has to go through a semi-final match, or Mr. Perfect, both are baby faces, of course, at that point, so it keeps it clear and not so obvious who will go and face Bam Bam in the final. So I think it's a very well booked tournament all the way through, because the heel now is so fresh. He dominated Hacksaw Jim Duggan as well. So all in all, this is good stuff. And as Steve said earlier on in this, you build the rematch with these two if you want to. However, it wasn't so long until Luger turned babyface. I think they were probably testing the waters here as well, because when he called for 5 more minutes, that's a babyface move. The place went wild. Of course, then he actually went and turned and did the heel move by knocking Tatanka down. But it's only about 2-3 weeks later that he answers Yokozuna's slam challenge for the Lex Express on July the 4th. So, and all of a sudden, the narcissist gimmick is in the dustbin. So, it's something for what it is at the time period. But all in all, not too bad. NXT star rating for this match, please.
I went with 3.5. I thought this was, like, as much as I enjoyed the first match for a wrestling match, for story-wise, I was drawn in by this one, and I was entertained from start to end. And like I said, the way it starts, the way it finishes, the post-match, I just thought it was great. 3.5 stars for me.
Fantastic. Tino?
I gave it a 3 because I like these two and everything else like that. It just was I just didn't like the time limit expiring and stuff like that. But I mean, other than that, I thought it was good. And when he knocked him out, like I said, I thought that I was like, dang, like I said that, I'm like, that guy is gone. Like he went night. So I thought that was really good. Have they ever added have they ever added like 5 minutes to? Sorry, my dog's gotta love it. Have they ever added 5 minutes to like a match in like one of these King of the Rings like back in the day or anything like that? Because at a minute there, I was like, is somebody going to come out and add 5 more minutes? I'm like, are we about to see this?
The reason no is because that they designed for this show that, and this someone probably should have said at the start, really, so apologies for not mentioning it earlier, but the first round was 15-minute time limit matches, so if it wasn't done, you had to get it done. And I think that was some of the fun with the drama of the commentary as well, because they were saying, like, you need to be quick, you need to have a different strategy with this. It's all about getting your moves in fast to get through, because you don't want to let the time expire, which obviously these two do, so that's why they don't add the extra 5 minutes, because it's down to 15. The semi-finals is 30 minutes, and the final is, I think, is meant to be an hour.
Yeah. Okay. So they did have a different time for the second round, because I heard the last round. I heard the 60 minutes. I didn't hear 30 minutes. Okay. So that makes sense then.
Final. I believe it's because you hear Savage saying the semi-final match between Bret and Perfect is like, well, we said they had to really rush it before, but now this one is a different normal sort of style match. You've got 30 minutes to work with. So yeah, they do play with that narrative on the commentary throughout the night as well. But just to say then, we got the star ratings there from everyone. We've got 2 barks from the dog as well, which is good to hear. I'm going to give a 2.5 star rating myself personally for this one. So let's see what Dave Meltzer had to say for this 15-minute time limit draw. He's gone for 2.25 stars, still more harsh than we are on this show. Dave has not been as generous as we have so far. Maybe the rose-tinted glasses were not on Dave's eyes on that day. We'll have to wait and see as we go along through the rest of the show. However, we are going to go backstage with Mean Gene Okerlund with Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, and oh, this is glorious. Mean Gene challenges Bret's words from earlier in the night, saying that Bret preferred to take on Mr. Perfect because he thinks he can beat Mr. Perfect. Is it the easier match? Bret said no. Yeah, he did say he wanted a technical match rather than the knockdown drag-out, but he said he prefers Perfect, and he said that it could have been either man, but he actually prefers Perfect as a performer and as a person. But then both of them argue whose dad could beat each other up in a fight for like 2 teenagers. And then Mr. Perfect reminds Bret Hart SummerSlam 91 and says that he owes him a return receipt after losing on that show. Of course, that was an Intercontinental Championship match at which Bret did win at Madison Square Garden. And next, Steve, your thoughts here with this interview segment between Bret and Mr. Perfect?
Mean Gene is the biggest shit stirrer in the world. There's no nice way about it, but it's kind of like, hang on a minute, you said you see, so basically what you said is Mr. Perfect's easy, right? So Mean Gene, come on now, that's not what he meant. Just dude, entertaining as anything. Like again, another reason to die laughing. Even as a video package just to go and watch alone, because it's so entertaining. It's great, man. It's
superb. It really is. And I think Mr. Perfect does sort of have to say, like, I do what I have to do to beat you in this match. Like, I'm not going to lose this time. I'm going to do what I have to do. Tina, what are your thoughts here of Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, the interview segment with Mean Gene backstage?
I thought it was great, and as soon as they were talking about each other's dads and everything, all I could picture was somebody from the Hart family, like Natalia or Tyson Kidd or somebody sitting there with like Curtis Axel or something like that. I'm like, it's crazy. I'm like, I'm watching this, and then like I watched and we've watched like Axel and Natalia and Kidd, and it was just so funny, and it was just stuff like that is just kind of like stuff that like, you know, because then it like, at least with me, it brought me like, I'm like, ooh, this match is a little bit more interesting now. As somebody ever like watching it for the first time, that's just something that like, because I like go, you know, like taking those comparisons, and yeah, so I thought it was good. And Mean Gene is great. I miss Mean Gene every day. It's so like it's crazy. He was just so good, and especially after watching all the old WrestleMania ones we did on my channel and everything, it's like I got so used to his voice. Once I got to a certain WrestleMania, I'm like, it's weird without him now.
Absolutely, and his WCW days as well are fantastic as well. I recommend to go and watch them on a weekly basis, the Monday night shows and stuff like that. Brilliant stuff. But yeah, I mean, honestly, really, really good. I mean, it does get a bit schoolyard with that bit. My dad's better than your dad kind of vibe. But hey, it's all fun and tongue in cheek, and I think it really adds to the narrative what we get with a match. Which, let's be fair, myself and Nick Steve did talk briefly off air before this one started on a social media platform, Messenger. WhatsApp. They're not sponsoring this video, but if you want to, but we said masterclass, sheer masterclass, these two. If you've seen their original match from SummerSlam 1991, it is a joy to behold. Tino, if you probably haven't seen it, I could even argue it could be better than this match, but this match is absolutely insane. Let's go through some of the details of why this match is awesome, because, well, obviously Mr. Perfect makes the entrance. Bret Hart makes the entrance to the ring. We mentioned how good commentary's been all night. They noticed that Bret Hart has his left hand taped after the match with Razor, so Bret is a little bit worn down going into the match. We've got a lovely technical start between both men, the match that Bret Hart wanted. Hard to separate the two, but Bret does utilize an advantage with his headlock constantly, and Bret then does a roll-up, jumping over the top rope as well to Mr. Perfect. I believe it was a 2 count effort on that occasion, but Perfect then does what he has to take advantage. He told Bret this as well, actually in the interview. So when Bret is in the ropes, Perfect actually gets a kicking on Bret Hart. We see then Bret actually on the floor at one point. Again, Mr. Perfect opens up the ropes for Bret Hart to get back in. As Bret's getting into the ring, Perfect will attack Bret Hart. It's almost like he's turning heel in the match. The psychology is going back to his old roots, because Mr. Perfect was a heel back in the day. When these last two had a match, Mr. Perfect was the heel, and the person that was managing him was Bobby the Brain Heenan, who found himself in commentary, who had fallen out with Mr. Perfect, almost rooting on for him, seeing that old side come back. It was beautifully put together. We see then Perfect goes to attack Hart on the floor as well, including hitting Bret Hart's head on the apron. Again, you could argue another heel move. Bret then is slingshotted. My favorite spot of the whole match is slingshotted from the apron into the guardrail. Bret's like kind of landing into a couple of trays on the floor as well. Just adds a bit of extra brutality on the floor as well. We get a drop kick from Perfect as well from the top rope. It's a 2 count with Bret's foot being on the ropes. We see then Bret being thrown into the buckled chest first. Again, no one does it better than Bret. Bret though counters Perfect on the top rope and hits a superplex from the second rope. Bret then targets Perfect's left leg, applies a figure 4 leg lock. Of course, Perfect once being aligned with Ric Flair as well. Just a nice little bit of bit of symmetry, but putting that together, I really liked it. But Perfect does get to the ropes to break the hold. Perfect though uses the hair to throw Bret across the ring. Again, another heel move, you could argue. But Perfect then applies a sleeper. Bret gets to the ropes, but Perfect only broke when the hold was on the count of 4. Obviously, the referee gives a 5 count. You are disqualified. So again, Perfect taking every moment he needs to keep that move on Bret the Hitman Hart. The sleeper is applied again from Perfect, but the foot is on the rope. Not sure why that gives him an advantage, but he tried it anyway. Bret then breaks out with Perfect then going into the buckle face first. We get a heck of a forearm from Bret Hart, followed by a hip toss, leading to Perfect going groin first into the ring post. Love the imagination of Perfect, how we made that possible. Bret applies the backbreaker and an elbow from the second rope. A 2 count for the effort. Bret goes for the sharpshooter, but Perfect has Bret's hand to break out of the hold. So the mention of the hand at the start of the match is used in the key moment of why Bret cannot apply the sharpshooter. Perfect goes for the perfect plex, but Bret counters to a suplex, and both men with that suplex go over the top rope and to the floor. You could have questioned that point. Either man getting in for the 10 count on the from the referee, would Bam Bam just be given the king of the ring at that point? Because if these
I was waiting for it. At one point, I was like, watch these two get counted out. I'm like, is this how it ends?
Thankfully, both men make it back in, and we get to the finisher because Perfect goes for the small package, but Bret counters it, uses a small package of his own, and gets the 3 count. And we see Perfect getting really angry at the end of the match, saying this is bogus, gets in Bret's face after the match, but eventually both men shake hands as a sign of respect. Mr. Perfect, for the time being at least, does remain a baby face. I'm going to start with NXT Steve on this one because you did say to me sheer masterclass on message earlier, so I'd like to know your thoughts of Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect.
I have 2 notes. Technical masterclass, simply amazing. Like when you ironically when you text me and I'm watching the same match and you just put Bret Perfect 3 fire emojis and I went, dude, this is just amazing. Like to add back to something Tino said as well, like the pre-match interview, I'm thinking about it now, that actually does make a lot of sense that this adds some key textures and key points to this match. I mean, it's almost like a video package that you'd normally get, but instead we've got an interview. Thinking about it now, yes, logically 100% makes total sense. Everything you said, this just flowed beautifully. Everything made sense the whole way through it. I couldn't find anything wrong with this to my standard. Like it was just great. Story was great. Wrestling was great. The start with the chain wrestling at the start that was like one up in each other was just great, man. This is a fantastic match, and I tell you what, I will reckon you'll be hard to find another match in '93 that's better than this. This is fantastic.
Wow, yeah, that's a big call there. To be fair, you're probably right, to be honest. But Tino, what are your thoughts of Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect in the semi-final?
I mean, this was probably my favorite match of the night, to be honest. Like, I was watching this, like, I was like, because I'm one of those where I like to multitask. I like to play video games and watch TV. So I was watching this while playing video games, and I actually paused the match that I was playing in 2K, just sit there and watch it because I was so invested. I'm like, because I'm also one of those two where I'll forget, so I got to go back, or I miss it because I'm on my phone or I get distracted or whatever. So there was a few times I went back just to make sure I caught everything of this match because it was just entertaining. It was just like this, like the match went on and kept going, and I'm like, I kind of don't want it to end. And then, like I said, when they were about to get counted out, I'm like, don't end it like this. And then, as you said, they got in the ring and it was a good match. And like I said, when we were talking about the interview, and as Steve said, it just brought a little bit more layers. And that was a good point about the interview, because that's kind of like what they did back then, was the interviews were more like the video packages, because they obviously they didn't have the video packages that they now do nowadays, that they have all these fancy things and videos and music. And so it was good, and it was just it kind of gave me that adrenaline I needed to get through the rest of the show. Because like I said too, sometimes while watching these shows, sometimes it's like I get a little tired and I'm like, ooh, I need to like stay up. I was waiting to fall asleep. I was like, I need to get through this. I'm like, come on, we're doing good here. So that's match of the night.
Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, then, because dare I say, and just pun intended, absolutely perfect. This is perfection. Usually I
see what you did there.
But at the same time, I just thought the storytelling, everything about this was just brilliant. There was drama in the match. There was just unique beats, and just the idea as well, especially with the commentary idea of Heenan almost siding with Perfect as well when they'd fallen out so badly. Just everything put it together. It's hard to say. If you watch nothing else, watch this match, because I agree with NXT Steve. I don't think you're going to find a better match in 1993. I think there's one I can think close off at the top of my head. Two Cold Scorpio versus Chris Benoit, I think takes place at Super Bowl 3, I want to say. That's a really good match, and that's a 20-minute match as well. But this one for me, I mean, this is two people top of their game and just knock it out of the park. Fabulous match. I'm just going to kick it off. I'm going to say 5 stars. I can't think of anything better there.
Like Matt Hardy likes to do, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star.
Are we all in agreement?
Yeah, just 5 stars, dude. Oh, yeah,
just
100%, man.
Yeah.
It is. Go out your way one to watch this one, and let's see what Dave Meltzer's got to say, because this match, 18 minutes and 56 seconds, just say, is the longest match on the show, and thank goodness for that as well. This match, he rated a 4.25 stars, so I mean, not quite the 5 from Dave, but what I will say is, it's a high rating. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's a very fair rating to give. Like, it's there's not a lot wrong with this match in my personal opinion.
No.
Do you know what? While you're talking now, I'm just going to Google and try and find what Dave Meltzer's highest rated match from '93 is, because I want to know what beats that, because that's technical masterclass, and for him to only give it 4.25, so carry on, but give me a minute to try and find it.
Not a problem. I'll tell you what we do. That we're going to talk to our good friend Mean Gene Okerlund one more time. Who's with Hulk Hogan and new manager Jimmy Hart. Of course, they aligned when Hogan returned in '93 on the build to WrestleMania 9. Jimmy Hart has Hogan's face on the back of his jacket, and that was kind of freaky. There's going to be no sneak attacks. The power is in Hogan's hands. He will remain a 5-time WWF champion. Of course, he would. If he lost it, he'd still remain a 5-time WWF champion. That wouldn't change no matter what. But anyway, Jimmy says that when Fuji and Yoko talk about the USA, it's a slap in the face of Hogan. Pretty much your Americana, get behind Hogan, that kind of stuff. If you've seen it before, your prayers, your vitamins, all that jazz from Hogan, it's all there here. So that brings us then to the WWF Championship match. Yes, you're getting this in the middle of the show. It felt like a 2012 pay-per-view of being it's what we're getting. And you know, I'm not going to complain about it either, being Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna. Not the biggest Hogan fan back in the day, if I'm being brutally honest. But I'll go into some of the details of the match just while Nick Steve is still looking up that detail. We can come to him in a minute on it. But so Yokozuna basically takes advantage of the power game early in the match. But Yoko misses a smash in the corner. Hogan hits some punches, but fails to then slam Yoko. Kind of similar to what happened with Hacksaw and Bam Bam. Yoko is back on top of the match, if you want. He misses a smash, though, on Hogan's back. Hogan runs into the ropes for a shoulder block, but he doesn't actually affect Yoko. He just goes down. Yoko's too powerful, too big. And then he applies a bear hug. Hogan then punches his way out, but then he gets hit with a belly-to-belly. But Hogan kicks out, and of course, with the belly-to-belly, then hulks up. Hits his punches, hits a big boot, and Yoko, he doesn't go down. So Hogan does the same again. Hits the punches, hits the big boot. Yoko doesn't go down. But after a third attempt, Yoko finally goes down. Hogan hits his famous leg drop, but Yokozuna kicks out at 2. Shock to everybody. Hogan then punches Mr. Fuji off the apron, and it looks like he's going to attempt to slam Yoko one more time. But then a cameraman who was around ringside comes to the apron, wants to take a pic of Hulk. Obviously, the camera people and people were following around Yokozuna a lot around this time period. One of them wanted to take a picture of Hulk, and as they go to do that, the camera explodes, and a fireball treatment goes straight into Hogan's eyes. Yoko then hits a leg drop of his own and gets the win. We've got a brand new champion. But of course, Hulkamania is dead, ladies and gentlemen, because Yoko hits the bonsai drop after this match, writing Hogan out of WWF. In fact, he isn't to return to the company until 2002. Tino, your thoughts, unfortunately, for Hulk Hogan going down to Yokozuna for the WWF Championship. What were your thoughts of the camera work?
Well, wait. So this is the last time we see him till 2002.
If I'm not mistaken, yes.
That's crazy. Okay, I did not know that either. See, I'm like learning new things, that everything is all starting to it's like putting together a puzzle. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't know we had fireballs back in 2000 back in 1993. But I mean, it was interesting, and but Yoko won, and it all makes sense now. If Hogan was leaving, obviously Yoko was going to win, and he got his moment that he probably should have gotten at that year's WrestleMania that we watched. And that we all know what happened with that awful WrestleMania 9 ending. So, he got his championship, and Yoko did what he had to do. And then obviously Hogan went and did what Hogan had to do for 9 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, he went off to do a bit of acting. Then he went to WCW 1994.
That's
1996, created the NWO and was a heel until mostly heel until WCW sort of went to back to Russo booking in 2000. I think that's when Hogan went back to the yellow and red, and I think then he had the big.
That's crazy.
And then he's gone to 2002.
He has 3 matches for New Japan prior to leaving WWE, but before joining WCW in '94. He has 3 matches.
Wow, there you go. There you go. That's a bit of interesting
Fun
knowledge
fact.
as well. I mean, Hogan basically was the politician at WrestleMania 9. Let's just get that detail out there. You know, Yoko and Bret was the main event, and Hogan come and undid the down because Yoko was undefeated. They'd been in there since like October and won the championship, and then undone everything in 30 seconds. So I mean, the fact that they did this match here to put things right certainly was a start. But the fact that Hogan didn't want to do the match with Bret Hart either at the time period as well was just criminal when you look back at it, because that could have been great at putting Bret over as the new top guy, the new top babyface in the company. But still, that's probably a different discussion for a different day here. The right result comes in, but NXT Steve, probably a better fireball than against the Ultimate Warrior at Halloween Havoc 98.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely a better one. Like, it seems to be that's Hulk Hogan's Achilles heels. You know, like Baron Corbin's Achilles heels is a small package. Apparently, Hulk Hogan's is a fireball, and honestly, it made me laugh because I was like, obviously, Hogan can't lose clean because it's Hulk Hogan. He has to have some sort of screwy finish. I very much felt like this was meant to be on par with Andre Hogan. Like the way they were trying to book it felt like it was meant to be David versus Goliath once again, and it kind of doesn't have the same ring bell. And it was and then dodgy video interview before with Hogan was almost like he was trying to make some sort of World War II reference, which I thought was really cringy, and I was like, I really struggled to kind of enjoy this from that point on. But I mean, for the storyline beats, it was entertaining, but it just felt like I said, it just felt like Hogan was still trying to do business for himself, and I was like, it's what I expect from Hogan at this time period, where he's still trying to pull the strings. The fact that it's his last one till 2000 and something as well, it makes it kind of more obvious now why they've finished it like that. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like Vince still protects him on the way out. Do you know what I mean? It's really weird.
I think because as well, when you look at it at that time period, Vince would have thought if he ever comes back, he's coming back here. Never in his wildest dreams did he think, right, he'll go to WCW. You know, he didn't think that would be possible for 94, but it did happen. And of course, Hogan actually changed things and what created a Monday Night War at the time period. But yeah, when you look back at this match, obviously, there's a lot you can unravel when it comes to it, really. But all in all, Hogan, you know, he does do the job. Yoko does get over, but put over as a monster this time. And obviously, you know, the idea that Hulkamania could be made as dead. That was what the people would always say. They're going to kill Hulkamania. It was made believable because Hogan was not around for a long time after that. So job accomplished, I guess. I do feel that the finish is, I would have preferred a clean finish rather than Hogan be protected on the way out, but it is what it is with this sort of thing. But hey, the result was right, and I think that's what matters. You know, I think one of the reasons because I said that at the start of the show, I have like rose-tinted glasses with this show a little bit, and I think one of my reasons for doing so is because I used to get a lot of the VHS, like Tino said, he didn't see this show before now, so I would get like a lot of the VHS tapes of stuff before I'd started watching, and every time there was a Hogan match, Hogan always won. So I got frustrated as hell. I didn't like watching Hogan matches. I was like, well, Hogan wins, what's the point? He never loses. So I didn't like it. So when Hogan lost in the show, I was like, yes, you know, that's not the desired effect you're meant to have. But for me, I liked the idea that someone wasn't undefeated all the time. I liked the fact that someone could be beat. So for me, I kind of felt that his matches were boring. So this just felt fresh, different, and exciting for me. So just a little bit of a personal feeling, if you will. But let's go into the star ratings for this match. And Tino, what would be your star rating for Hogan versus Yoko?
I'd say like 2.5. I don't know. I mean, like, I liked it. It was what it was, but I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like, I feel like that Mr. Perfect and that Bret Hart match, the match was so good that it was like, I got, you know, like after you have a big match, they have like a match that, like, I don't know, like, this was just, I was still trying to recover from that, and I was like, you know, so I thought it was good, but nothing like too crazy. And I was just happy Yoko won, and now that I know I didn't know Hogan was gone, so now that makes sense, because I was confused. I'm like, why are they using a fireball? What's going on here? Like, this doesn't make sense. And so, but yeah, that's what I felt about it.
So, NXT Steve?
I'm gonna agree and say 2.5. Like, for as much as like you got obviously, like Tino said, you got post-match blues with that 5-star masterpiece that was just on, and then you have a Hogan match, and you're kind of like, this is what I meant at the start as well. But this is a very well orchestrated pay-per-view. Like everything has its correct spot. And yes, I know your world title being the third match before the end is kind of weird, but it makes sense when it came to the booking wise. Yeah, 2.5 for me. Like I felt the ending was great, and like you said, Steve, just to see Hogan lose. I was a Warrior guy when I was a kid, so you know what I mean. So I always hated Hogan anyway. So do you know what I mean? Hogan losing was always a win for me as a 8-year-old child at the time.
Same. I was a Warrior one as well. Remember getting a WrestleMania 6 VHS, and I was like, so they face one another? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, that was like the biggest match ever. And it was like, when Warrior actually won it, I mean, take aside that the match is actually a pile of garbage, really. But the fact is, but Warrior winning for me was everything. I was like, yes. So I'm with you. I'm exact same camp as you. But I'm going to be slightly harsher with this one. I'm going to go with like a 1.75. I don't think this match is very good. I feel that from the belly to belly onwards, I think it's bearable. But I do feel like the first. I mean, this is how long was this match? Just look through the details.
Typical Hogan match.
13:05.
13:08. So we're probably talking the first 8 minutes of this match where we were complete horse manure. I struggled to get through. Yeah, do you know what I would say? Dog shit. I think it was just dog shit the first 8 minutes of this match. But the last 5 was more than bearable. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.75 for it. But 13 minutes 8 seconds, and just looking at Dave Meltzer's rating, 1.5 star rating for this match. So Dave, once again, going lower than all 3 of us.
Nothing wrong with Dave. He never agrees with me.
Man, he's a funny guy. And I don't know if you guys listen to Vince Russo, but I know maybe a lot of people, but that man says bro about 50,000 times an episode.
Yo, bro.
I'm just like, bro. Like, can we stop? I started listening to podcasts, like, as I'm driving and everything. I'm just like, oh my God, this guy, please stop.
He needs an editor to take out all the bros. It's probably only about a 12-minute video if you take all the bros out of it. So an hour episode. But
like, okay, sure.
Wait till you get to WCW 2000, Tino.
Oh God.
The amount of bros.
Is that where the bro Matt Riddle came from?
You never know. You never know. It could have been. You never know. We're going to move backstage, and this will be very quick. Terry Taylor talks to Mr. Perfect with a Coliseum video exclusive about his loss to Bret Hart. Perfect doesn't want to talk about it. All right, we won't either. Mean Gene then is with Shawn Michaels and Diesel. And can lightning strike twice? Mean Gene was a saucy one on this night. A saucy one, I should say. He says, can lightning strike twice? And HBK also lose his championship. HBK says, he can strike once. We've seen it. Hogan's not the performer like Shawn Michaels. Shawn, you're telling the truth. Shawn reveals his bodyguard's name. He has a bodyguard behind him who we all know is Kevin Nash these days. But of course, we didn't know his name at that point. Of course, it wasn't Vinny Vegas. It was Diesel, like diesel fuel. So everywhere that Shawn goes, he goes as well. Lovely jubbly. We'll move on into the 8-man tag team match that followed this. It was the Steiner Brothers and the Smoking Guns versus Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers. And, 8 guys and 6 minutes to perform your moves. You've got the idea of how this match is going to work out. 6 minutes and 49 seconds. I don't know if I saw IRS in this match. That's how quick
Kishi was
IRS,
in the match, right?
Yes.
IRS got in. I don't think Rick Steiner did. That was what I was going to say, because I was looking at it and it finished and I went, did Rick Steiner even get tagged in at any point? IRS definitely did. And I know Rikishi did. And I know the other head shrinker did. And I know DiBiase did. And I know Bart and Billy did. And obviously Scott started it. And I was like, Rick Steiner just got a payday for doing absolutely nothing.
Those are the days. The best days. You don't got to do nothing. Just stand on the top rope. Shoot. Don't I do that job? Sign me up.
Absolutely. I'll be down for it as well. I'd love to do that. Scott Steiner clotheslines Ted DiBiase out of the ring twice early on in this 8-man tag. I just want to say quickly as well, the story beat going into this match is that the Steiner brothers won a tag team match against Money Inc. So just keep that in mind as we go through if a logical booking or illogical as we go through this. Bart Gunn is the guy that gets worked on by all the heels until he gets the hot tag to Billy. DiBiase, though, manages to clothesline Billy across the top rope. DiBiase then applies the $1 Million Dream, but decides to let the move go. Don't know why. Ted gloats and taunts to the opposite corner, saying the match is pretty much over. As he picks Billy up, Gunn gets a small package for the win. And then there's a brawl after the match with all 8 guys, and the baby faces stand tall. So if you're wanting to build the Steiner Brothers versus Money Inc., what do you do to book the finish? You have the Smoking Guns pin a member of Money Inc. Yeah, that's what it is. NXT, your thoughts of this gripping 8-man tag team match?
Is that what it is?
Dude,
Probably
the most, like, I think the most shocking thing about this match is that Billy and Bart Gunn were shooting off pistols before the match started. Like, I forget that that's a thing in 93 WWE or WWF, is that Bart and Billy standing there shooting their 6-shooters off, and then later on, Doink is smoking a cigar.
I was gonna wait till that match, but I was just gonna say, I'm like the 1993. These guys are just smoking cigars. I'm like, I said it to myself. I'm like, just imagine like Seth Rollins coming out smoking a cigar, or like Riddle coming out smoking. I'm just like,
dude, honestly, the craziest thing. I think that was the biggest shocking point for me. I gave it 2 because I would thought, do you know what, this is a typical TV tag team 8-man tag match. I gave it a 2-star.
That's fair enough, Tino.
This was a perfect 8-man Vince McMahon match that he loves to do. Put 8 guys in the ring, go out there for 5 minutes and do whatever. And yeah, I gave it a 1.5. I actually almost skipped the match because I figured it was going to be like that, and I was like, I'm just going to like leave it in case I miss something. And then now I kind of wish I skipped it because there really wasn't too much to it. I literally just sat there. I started cleaning off my table and stuff while it was on. Just like, okay, so.
I love we know what Tino was doing in every match.
I'm sorry. My attention is my bad.
No, I'm looking
this is my life watching a pay-per-view. I clean. I'm on my phone. I'm on, it's just, I don't have a great attention span. Even the pay-per-views, watching them live, I'm on my phone. I have to go back and rewatch them because I'm just like, I miss half the stuff. So.
I'm looking forward to when Tino says, like, I've got a big slice of pizza.
No, that's next week.
That's next week. Okay,
this week.
There'll be a different show. You get to see that from Tino. Unfortunately, it will not be here. But hey, it's what it is. But I would say, all in all, I wish that this was the days where this could have been a fatal 4-way for the tag team, because apparently the Money in the Headringers weren't getting on with something commentary said. We don't know that, but they didn't win, so maybe they've got something to it. But I would have preferred this to be a 4-way for the tag titles. I think it would have been more interesting. However, this was short, sweet, didn't build to what they were meant to be building to going in, so maybe it's a different direction coming out. I'm not sure, but it's what it is. I give it a 1.5 star along with Tino. But so yeah, this match, as we mentioned, 6 minutes 49 seconds. So it's not the shortest match on the show, but it felt like it. Dave Meltzer gives this a 1-star rating. To be fair, I don't blame him. We miss Rick Steiner. We actually could protest to want to see more Rick Steiner on our TVs. We'll move on in the meantime, though, and Mean Gene is backstage with Yokozuna, Mr. Fuji, and President Jack Tunney. You know stuff is going to get serious when Jack Tunney's present. He congratulates Yokozuna being the new champion. Nothing about, there was fireballs and just, cheating going on. Jack Tunney's like, I'm happy with this new champion. America and Hulk Hogan is finished, says Mr. Fuji, laughing as well. He's going to celebrate in America as well, just to rub it in a bit more. Of course, the classic foreign heel champion, of course. And he manages to remain champion even through the days against Lex Luger as well, which would go on into the summer.
Did they ever find out who the photographer was that flash fires Hogan at all? Was it just like it disappears and it's never brought up ever again?
I don't know the answer to that question. I didn't dive that deep with the fireball, unfortunately. I assumed it was a one-time.
I presume with Hogan never coming. Yeah, I was presuming with Hogan never coming back, they probably didn't reveal who it was. Like, I thought it might have been someone else who joins Yoko later down the line, but I guess not.
It may be indeed. Out of interest, by the way, you were looking up 1993. Was there a better rated match than Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect in 93?
Well, there's loads of All Japan Wrestling, New Japan Wrestling matches which are higher. Some of these matches are questionable because I'm like, how he's rated them higher. So, out of interest, okay, you're looking along the same lines. You've got Shawn Michaels versus apparently Shawn Michaels versus Jannetty from 93 is rated the same as this match. Okay, but then anything anything above what he gave it. So what did he give it? A 4.25? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Brett. That's 4.25. Okay, so he also put on there Where was it? AAA. WCW Starrcade 93, Ric Flair versus Vader. He gave that 4.5 stars. These are all just the WWF, WCW matches I'm going with. He gave a Monday Night Raw between Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, 4 3/4 stars.
Okay.
He then also gave Vader and Cactus Jack from Halloween Havoc 93, 4 3/4 stars. And then there's one more, which I've never really heard of this wrestling promotion. It's American, but I like the sound of it because it sounds like my kind of match. This is from a promotion called SMW, Volunteer Slam 2, Rage in a Cage. And I was like, he gave that 5 stars. Rage in a Cage, 5-on-5 war games. And I was like, okay, sure. So, they are out there apparently, but I've never even heard of that one.
Fantastic. We need to have a slam in the van just for you. Match.
That's definitely one.
That's the one that's missing. But certainly something that's been missing of this show. You're probably wondering yourself, where's the Intercontinental Championship? Where is Shawn Michaels? Here he is, with newly named bodyguard Diesel going against Crush for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, from Hawaii, Crush was at that point. But there's a shoulder block from Crush earlier on, sending Shawn through the ropes to the floor. Crush showing great agility as well with a drop kick, sending Shawn back to the floor as well. Crush hitting Shawn with a military press slam, basically showing Crush as an all-rounder, that he's got, the agility, he's got the power, he's got everything. And Savage is saying, he could be a great challenger for Yokozuna for that championship. Forget the IC title, go for the big one. But then Crush hits a tilt-the-world backbreaker on Shawn, which I must admit, for the time period, pretty darn impressive. Shawn then uses Diesel to distract Crush so he can attack Crush from behind on the floor. Crush gets hit into the ring post. Diesel then actually puts Crush headfirst into the ring post as well when the ref is not looking. And then Shawn continues to put Crush headfirst into the ring post quite multiple times as well. Looked quite vicious. Shawn applies a front face lock as well, but Crush does power out. Shawn applies it again with Crush, then powering out once again. Shawn tries it a third time, and you guessed it, being powered out once again, but this time being thrown out of the ring and hitting the top rope on the way out. It was as cool as it sounds. Crush then makes the comeback. However, 2 doinks come out with cigars and all, and they continue to mirror actions very similar to what we saw at WrestleMania 9. Of course, Doink and Crush was the match there where the 2 doinks were revealed originally. With Crush being distracted, Shawn hits a super kick where Crush is not looking, so it's to the back of his head. But then Crush actually goes head into the turnbuckle before falling down and being pinned for the 1, 2, 3. And of course, then Crush does chase the doinks out of the ringside area. So that's this match here. Just to quickly give you the time frame for this match as well, 11 minutes and 14 seconds. I've got to say, all in all, I'll take it first this time. I don't think this is a bad match. I think that Crush is showcased really well with his different variety of movesets, that he's got an all-rounder. I like the fact that Diesel is the reason why Shawn can get into the match to begin with, so it shows there's a purpose for Diesel. And I've got to say that actually it plays into the finish of the match with the super kick to the back of the head. Crush's had been bitten in that post so many times, it felt like a knockout shot was going to do him, and I think it fit narratively well with the storyline. And Steve, would you agree with me?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I was disappointed we didn't get Demolition Crush, because that's what I was expecting when I saw the name on the sheet, and I was like, hang on a minute, who's this fraud coming down to the ring? But I was like, okay, let's just roll with it. Dude, Shawn Michaels is always a pleasure to watch. He sells like no one else. Yeah, I enjoyed this, and to play off what you said, I enjoyed the fact that we got to see Crush do what, have Crush just be the baby face and have a decent run in the match. And I was like, it's always weird who they used to push back in 93. Like I said, never knew Tatanka was as big as he was, and obviously Vince must have seen something in Crush to try and push him as a top baby face by the looks of it. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad match. I thoroughly enjoyed this. The doink. This was again a running plot line with this show, though, is that another protected finish where we get some sort of interference, and then it ultimately costs Crush the win. I get it kind of protects Crush because they're obviously trying to build him up, but it just felt like it was an ongoing narrative throughout this show. But yeah, I enjoyed it as well.
Well, it was very decent. Tino, what was your thoughts of Shawn Michaels and Crush?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, when the 2 doinks come out, I thought it was hysterical that, like I said, the fact that the 90s was that wild, that they were just doing that. Or I remember, I forgot what WrestleMania was, and Roddy Piper had the Piper's Pit, and this guy's just smoking a cigarette in the ring. It's just okay. But I mean, Shawn won. I think, as you said, Crush, it was really interesting. At first, I thought it was going to be a jobber match, But then I was like, but I mean, they did showcase him, as you said, and everything. Shawn won, Diesel did whatever. And as we would know, this would obviously lead to the following, or no, that's a couple of years later. I was going to say Diesel and Shawn, but, that they still had a little bit of time. So, but yeah. I didn't know. Like I said, also just starting to put all this together when everybody was with what. Because, just watching the WrestleManias, it's obviously hard because but watching other shows. So, I enjoyed it, though. It was a good match.
Yeah, I thought this was a solid match overall, and I think Shawn had won the title back from Marty Jannetty at this point as well, so I think that Shawn was ready to move on. Of course, I think he does actually end up having to vacate that IC title. He's actually suspended from WWE for a while in the mid-93 era. He doesn't return to the Survivor Series, a part of Jerry Lawler's Knights, and of course, Jerry Lawler will be mentioned a bit more in this as well, because Shawn Michaels will be opposed to Bret Hart at Survivor Series 93 in the Hart family, so interesting to see what we'll be talking about later on in this stream. However, Shawn Michaels here, I think this was the right result. I thought it was actually a decent little match. I do like Demolition Crush, can't lie to you, but this was the first Crush I saw back in the day as a fan, so there was a bit of a nostalgic feel for me. I'm pretty sure that mohawk that he's got going on, I think that's a clip-on, I'm sure it is. It doesn't look real to me, that hair, but hey, it is what it is. But quickly, boys, star rating for this match then. NXT, I'll start with you.
I went with 2 3/4.
Nice. Tino.
All right, I went a little higher. I said 3, but I think it's more Shawn. I just love Shawn's matches and watch his older matches, but so yeah, I said 3 with this one.
Nice. I've gone for 2.5 myself for this one here today. So we'll see what David's got to say about this one. Only gives us a 1.5 star.
Oh, wow, dude.
Wow.
I think Dave was unhappy this day. I'm not sure this was his most positive day watching this show, but hey, it is what it is. We move on in the meantime then, and we got Mean Gene one more time backstage with Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam saying he's fresh and he has business to take care of and becoming the first king of the ring. Well, short and sweet, that takes us then to the King of the Ring final. Of course, Bam Bam had only wrestled Hacksaw Jim Duggan for less than 5 minutes.
I was going to say, this man just living his best life. He don't got to face nobody.
No, he's literally fresh as a daisy coming into this one. Of course, Bret Hart's had nearly 20 minutes with Mr. Perfect and just over 11 minutes or so with Razor Ramon. So he's been wrestling quite a bit, Bret Hart, on this one. And of course, he this time is hobbling to the ring a little bit as well, along with the fingers. So they are making reference on commentary that Bret Hart is still, he's a bit out of it as well when it comes to this match going into it. But of course, Bam Bam goes for his press slam, but Bret lands on him on top for a pinfall attempt. Bam Bam shortly then goes for another press slam and actually launches Bret over the top rope to the floor. Looked quite brutal, that spot, to be fair. Bam Bam uses his power once again, throwing Bret Hart into the buckles. Also uses his head as an offense, using lots of hard shots. Pretty much it's a power game from Bam Bam in this match to put it over with Bret Hart. Whatever the moves are, it's all vicious looking, it's all powerful as well. He's the bigger man, of course, of the two, so he's doing what he needs to do. But when they're on the floor, these two, Bret Hart does actually manage to reverse an Irish whip. Sends Bam Bam into the barricade, almost into a kid into the front row as well. You can see the parents looking quite concerned. Respect to those parents as well. But Hart actually then hits a double axe handle from the apron to the floor as well onto Bam Bam. Bret then jumps off one more time from the apron, but this time Bam Bam catches him, slams him into the ring post back first. It looks quite painful to say the very least. Bret Hart then is slammed into the floor as well, not where the padding is either. We see Bam Bam get back into the ring to distract the official. At this point, Luna Vachon comes down and hits Bret with the chair. Obviously, Luna is aligned with Bam Bam and actually continues into 94 as well, which of course NXT will know famously is at WrestleMania 10, where Bam Bam and Luna take on Doink and Dink, for those that want to have that memory. Bam Bam then hits his headbutt from the top rope, and of course, you would say, well, surely Bret Hart, if he kicks out of this is a bit over the top. Well, he doesn't kick out. Bam Bam gets the victory. But the referee's happy to call it because he was distracted. But Earl Hebner comes down and he says, no, this is not over. I'm not accepting this because there's been a chair shot. This isn't fair. Talks to Howard Finkel, and Howard Finkel says, the decision has been reversed, where the fans go absolutely mental. Well, then Earl Hebner goes, no, that's not what I said. Listen to me. At this point, Howard goes, I stand corrected. This match will continue. And then, of course, the fans still go mad for it. Bam Bam uses his power game, once again going for submission holds, including a bear hug and a backbreaker. Bret manages to counter the backbreaker and then actually lands a back suplex onto Bam Bam. Bam Bam then goes for another backbreaker. Bret counters it into a sleeper. And then Bret actually follows this with a drop kick to the back and throws Bigelow then to the floor. We then see Bret do a dive over the top rope onto Bam Bam. Again, 1993. This is a bit ahead of our time. Bret then actually hits a Russian leg sweep, goes for the elbow, but Bam Bam gets up, so Bret decides to go for his bulldog instead. Bret then goes for the sharpshooter, but of course, Bam Bam with that power game, able to stop it being put on, powers out. Bam Bam goes for another bear hug, but then Bret bites him. We see a back suplex, which is countered by Bam Bam into a splash. Again, a very close 2 count. Again, all throughout these matches, the 2 counts actually really sold really, really well. It feels like it's going to be free. Bam Bam throws Bret into the corner, and this time he runs into a big boot from Bret Hart. Bret Hart then gets on top of Bam Bam's shoulders, goes for a victory roll, and gets the 1, 2, 3. And of course, instantly after this match happens, because Savage is so impressed, he decides to celebrate with Bret Hart. So before we get the coronation, we're going to leave that to the side. We'll talk about that last. We're going to just solely talk about the final now, the King of the Ring final. I'm going to start with NXT Steve on this one. Your thoughts of Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow?
Thoroughly entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong, for the amount of interference and stuff that goes on for the show, for this one match to be the one where Earl Hebner decides to grow a spine or a conscience and decides to come down to the ring and has the referee change the decision or whatever, get it all muddled up and confused and carries on the match, just seemed a bit out of place for me with this one. I think it kind of almost soured it for me as well. Like, I really enjoyed the rest of it. Dude, Bret Hart's just come off a 5-star with Mr. Perfect, and it's kind of like he is still on he's still on that high from that match. And like Bam Bam, obviously, if you know about Bam Bam, you know that he's good for a big guy. Like he's like him and Vader are kind of like 2 big guys that can actually go. So it is a really good match. And like I said, I think the referee thing just marks it down for me. The other thing I had a problem with as well is after Luna hits Bret with the chair, a fan takes a swing at her and she's running away. And I was like, whoa, dude, chill out. You need to be like, you know what I mean? You need to relax. Do you know what I mean? It's only professional wrestling, but that's just a gripe on human beings in general. But otherwise, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I actually missed that little spot there. We'll have to go and actually check that out there again. But yeah, like I say,
it looks like he swings like, you know, Duggan used to have like the polystyrene 2x4s as a novelty thing you could buy. It looked like one of them or one of the foam fingers, but I was like, you see it, it's a real small glimpse, but he literally swings over the barrier trying to hit her with something. And I was like, dude, be tranquilo. That is not cool.
No, that's not cool. To that person, be better. I'm sure I'm not watching this review, but be better. So, your thoughts of Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow?
I thought it was good. I mean, I was just thinking in my head, I was trying to put it together how we could have got Bret and Mr. Perfect in the finals, but obviously the bracket is the way it was. So, but I mean, I thought it was good. It was a good match. It ended, and honestly, at one point I thought I didn't know who won this. When I first turned it on, I had no idea. I was just watching it. So I thought Bam Bam maybe won, but then I was like, did Bam Bam ever become King of the Ring? And I was like, I don't think so. So then when all that stuff happened with the referee and everything, I was like, wait. And then did you guys catch that he actually made a mistake at first? The crowd went crazy, and then he was like, no. I mean, we're restarting the match. We're not ending it, because I think they thought that they were going to end the match or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting. But I mean, it was, so. I was happy that they did, because I was waiting for some type of shenanigans to go down at the end of this pay-per-view, and that's kind of I always say it. I go into it with every pay-per-view. Don't go in with too high expectations, because then something happens. It's exciting that just like this weekend with all the shows. Like don't get too excited. Just go into it and watch it, and so yeah. But I really enjoyed it, and Bret Hart won, and it was good. And as I said, it's nice to know this is where the Bret Hart King of the Ring figure is from now.
Absolutely indeed. There will be shenanigans, but it's not come through this match.
Not yet.
Not anymore after this match anyway, because obviously I think this is a great match. I think it's a great final. I think just to be as a booked tournament, now we can just talk about it like as it is. I mean, obviously Bam Bam has the clear path to the final. He's the bigger dude. He's a nasty looking dude as well. Bret Hart's had to go through all these matches to get to this. He's nearly wrestled an hour on this show to become King of the Ring. It's certainly worthy of a winner as well. Bret had just come off a title run as well. So if you're having a thirst of something, sometimes it works well to have an established name win it. And Bret Hart obviously goes hand in hand because King of the Ring feels like it means something because Bret Hart wins it. But Bret Hart obviously remains feeling like a big deal because he's won King of the Ring. So for me, I think it's a very well booked tournament. I think I love the stages of Bret's journey as well, getting more hurt through each match. Bam Bam, the clear path. It's amazing. I love the 5-star classic as well with Perfect in the middle. All in all, just a really well booked tournament. I think it's great, and especially for one night as well, because you've got all of this ingredients given to you at the same time. So yeah, brilliant stuff. This match in particular, like I say, Bam Bam is just, I think he's one of the most underrated performers of a generation, because I think that he's just brilliant in the ring. It's a shame he didn't get pushed much higher really in WWE. I know he did get a WrestleMania main event against Lawrence Taylor in '95, but still I think a run at the top of the title I think would not have been a miss for someone like Bam Bam at one point. But all in all, really enjoyed this. Let's go with the star ratings. And Steve, we'll start with you.
I went with 3 3/4. I had to knock it down for the ref thing because it kind of was the one story beat that ruined it for me. Like, with so much interference throughout the whole night, and to do it in the main event, like, I get it's part of the story, or it was trying to build the hype and the tension, but it was my one niggling point to it, so I went with 3 3/4.
I think that's fair. Tino?
Yeah, I went at 3. I thought it was good, but I'm in. So, well, yeah, Bam Bam was just Bam Bam should have won. There's no reason Bam Bam should have lost with having all those breaks and not wrestling too much. Bret went through the ringer.
Sometimes, though, if you rested up too well, you know, Bret was in the zone, he was in the action, the adrenaline pumping, it was all there. Maybe too much relaxation for Bam Bam. Maybe just the foot was taken off the gas a little bit. For me, I'm going to go for a 3.5. I think that'd be the rating I give for this one. I really enjoyed the match, but I do kind of agree it's slightly messy in that area. But I do feel as well, though, as a counteract, I think if Bret Hart kicked out of that headbutt from Bam Bam, it would have been a bit like Rollins Nakamura last year, where Rollins just kicked out of everything regardless. And I think the point was like, it was believable, the fact that he did not kick out of that move after that and the chair shot. So in a way, I kind of like it. And obviously we get the coronation that follows this match as well. But NXT, do you want to add something there quickly before we move on?
I was just going to say, like, I think that you could have done something else, like a ref bump or something. Do you know what I mean? You could have a ref bump where he does a long 3 count, gives Bret a chance to recover. I think I'd have taken more plausible than El Hebner goes to spine. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, especially when there's been shenanigans for the rest of the show. I think it's a very good point that you made. But so Bret Hart was crowned, but maybe he was crowned more by Jerry Lawler than he was actually crowned King of the Ring. He got the chance to wear the cape, hold the scepter, put the crown on his head. Obviously, the call has been made that this is going to be your next contender for the championship, Bret Hart. But of course, a new rivalry has started, because just before anything can really be said, Jerry Lawler does intervene. He says that I'm here to talk to the pretender to my throne, to tell the imposter that there is only one king. Jerry said that he would actually let Bret be the prince if he bows to him and kisses his feet. Yep. Bret says that's rich from someone who didn't even enter the tournament. And he says, well, you're the king. You're more like the Burger King. Obviously, that's the chant that was being made to Jerry in that time period anyway. So Burger King was the thing that was done. And it was enough to upset Jerry Lawler, because he attacks Bret Hart with the scepter and he destroys the crown as well. He slams the chair on Bret's back and then chokes Bret as well with the scepter, along with more shots into the body. Jerry then gets on the mic and says that Bret can kiss his feet, and by that he kicks Bret in the mouth and of course off the stage as well. Jerry holds up the damaged crown as well, the King of the Ring crown, as the show goes off the air, and of course will start being a 2-year rivalry. Tina, what were your thoughts as this show went off the air? Because obviously you're kind of building, everyone's saying we've got a championship contender now in Bret Hart, but actually we've changed the story beat. We've got a new rivalry in place, and of course it does make sense with Jerry the King Lawler.
Honestly, I didn't even know Jerry Lawler was like that, like big of like, I never knew he feuded with Bret Hart. So like when that happened, I was like, dang, I was like, okay, Jerry, I was like, I see you. And like, I don't know, I kind of like when they end shows like that with people just beating the crap out of each other. And they're like, we got to go, bye. And the thing goes off, and then they, because it went off. And then, as you guys know, on like WWE Network on Peacock, it goes right to 1994. So all of a sudden 1994 started, and I'm like, wait a second. So I had to go back and watch that part again, just because it went by so fast. But Jerry, I didn't know, and it obviously made sense with him being the king and pretender, and so I really enjoyed it, and it's nice to know Jerry stood up for himself, beat some butt back in the day,
Absolutely. And Steve, your thoughts with this closing angle?
I now know where Jonesy gets his fascination with post-match beatdowns from. This is obviously prime Jonesy. I was like, this is the most AEW thing because it's quite a common AEW thing now where we get a beatdown after someone wins a title with the main event. And I was like, okay. And I was like, this makes sense why Jonesy likes it so much now. But yeah, dude, man, I enjoyed it just for the pure fact that they don't do this stuff, so it's nice for when they take just dip their toe in the water and try something a little bit different. And you knew how it kind of had to make sense with Jerry, like Tino said, with Jerry being the king, and you knew that rivalry kind of had to happen from this point onwards. And it was, yeah, man, it was thoroughly entertaining. And like the thing I always got with the old pay-per-views as well was like every single one of them always felt like they were pressed for time. Like Tino says, when they go off the air just so abruptly, it's just the way it was always broadcast. It was always like, yep, that's it, we're going to go, bye, see you later, boom, and it was gone. And it would be the same for every pay-per-view. It was like as if they had a time limit and they could not go over it. It was just a very weird experience, really. But it kind of like, it's that period of wrestling in WWF.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me, I like the fact that it's built a story going forward because you think we're going one direction, we're actually going another. Because, like we say, we're actually building to Yoko versus Lex Luger. The Lex Express goes into SummerSlam, and we get Bret Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler. And this actually ends up being a 2-year on and off feud. Obviously, Bret Hart does have the great rivalry with Owen Hart going through to '94, which starts with Survivor Series because, well, Jerry Lawler was supposed to be a part of the Survivor Series 4-on-4 against the Hart family, was taken out. So I think that's what called their rivalry off for the time being. But this actually was concluded, this rivalry, at King of the Ring 1995, and guess what? A kiss my foot match was actually the way that this finished off, where Bret Hart won the feud. Yeah, so all in all, that is King of the Ring 1993. So we have a couple of questions we're going to fire around very quickly to give our final thoughts of the show, which will be finishing off with a final rating as well. So first off, going to do a quick fire round. Tino, match of the night for you.
I think obviously the match of the night is Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. And I did want to say before I forget, it's a good point that you said that, Steve, about the AEW, because that's kind of what I felt like at some points. I felt like some of these like old pay-per-views, I feel like I'm watching a lot of AEW because this is what Tony, obviously, and his dad and everything. So it's like this is kind of what he tries to bring in to AEW. But yeah, Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart was my favorite match. And I think it's a match too I'd probably go back and rewatch, especially like when King of the Ring is on like next year. I like going back and rewatching all the shows. So, yeah.
That works for you, and Steve.
Yeah, obviously perfect Bret Hart, but honorable mention to that main event. I thought that was really good as well.
Yeah, main event. Do you know what? It's well, we'll go into the topic in a minute, but yeah, I mean, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect is obviously match of the night. Bam Bam is pretty good as well. I don't mind the one with Razor Ramon, which of course leads into MVP of the night. Bret the Hitman Hart. He's wrestled for nearly an hour on this show. Who could you give it to otherwise? He's done fantastic stuff indeed. And Steve, would you agree? Absolutely.
Like, there's not even an honorable mention I can give it as Bret Hart, man. He's had 3 killer matches all night.
Yeah, every match is great.
I mean, there's no other option. I mean, I think like, nobody else went through 3 matches. Now, I mean, at least maybe if Bam Bam went through 2, maybe we could have given him like an honorable mention, but he went through 1 and rusted. He just, so Bret was the Iron Man, the King of the Ring that night.
Absolutely, indeed. That OMG moment of the night. And it's Steve.
Do you know what? Just for the sake of it, I'm going to say the flash fire photography because, why not? I just was like, oh my God, they were doing this stuff back in '93 as well. I'm going to go with that.
Fair play, Tino.
Man, he took mine. No, but I mean, I think that was just like the biggest thing. But I mean, like, honestly, like, again, like somebody being like, I don't want to make anybody feel old, but like seeing like the stuff that I see like in the 80s and 90s that they did, like I said earlier, like even like seeing like Doink and like them just come out and doing that, I'm just like, what is going on? So I think obviously that was, but the fact that that's what we like I'm sorry, like if I showed this to my cousin, he'd be like, okay, well, why isn't like Roman doing it? It's like, it's not allowed now. It was way different back then. Like it's not okay, like you can't just do that. So
change my answer. Doink the Clown smoking a cigar is my OMG moment of the night.
2 of them. There wasn't just 1. There was 2. They stood right next to each other at one point. I thought they were gonna like puff pass. I was like, true.
I love it.
I was just, man,
vision. Double vision indeed. I want to say, look, I do think the Hogan camera thing probably is the OMG moment of the night, but just to give a different answer to everybody, Jerry Lawler confronting Bret Hart at the end of the show, I think is a very fun way to end it. It builds a story going forward as well. Rivalry did go on for arguably 2 years afterwards as well. So, I think that's the one that's going to be the one that stands out for me, even though this is the final appearance for Hulkamania for quite some time. And then finally, we're going to give now our final score. And this one's going to be a rating out of 10. Tino, out of 10, what would you give a final rating of King of the Ring 1993 for those watching?
Probably say like a 7. Like a 7 for me. Again, but also I feel like, like I have like a different than like you guys, because you guys were also like, you guys like remember this. Like I feel like if this was like one that I always like, you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. Some of these older ones, I feel like I give bad ratings, but it's like maybe I just need to watch it again, a few times. But like, yeah. So I'm gonna like 7 out of 10.
I think it's a fair rating. And it's Steve.
I'm probably gonna be a bit more generous. Like I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really have any problems with the show. I enjoyed it. My lowest match rating was a 2, which is TV average. I'm gonna go 8.5 for me. Like I said, I think it's great, man. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this.
To be fair, man, I don't disagree too much with this. I've got one match that I've got a bad rating, or I have a couple of matches probably slightly lower ratings, but I think this match just the show flows so well. So I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10. There is the rose tinted glasses as well. This was one of my favorite shows growing up. I was really happy this was picked as the show that we've got this time around. Obviously, King of the Ring 1993, the first ever King of the Ring pay-per-view. So yeah, I think this was a great time all round, and I recommend people to go out of their way to watch it. It's great story beats going on throughout the night on this show. I think you'd have a good fun time watching it. But like we say, do definitely go and check out Bret versus Mr. Perfect. But hey, that's all from us anyway. But just before we do close off the show, Sid does ask a question quickly, which we're going to answer. Who is the greatest king and queen of the ring? I think Zelina has to be the greatest queen of the ring. It's been the only one so far. But for King of the Ring, we'll start with NX Steve. I'll ask you, who do you think is the greatest king of the ring?
Owen Hart.
Owen Hart, I like it. Tino.
King Booker! Come on. King Booker. Can never forget. Man, that guy was a menace back when I was like, man, I love King Booker.
I love it. Especially as well, like we had Charmel just always like King Booker. Is just so annoying, but it was done so
I'll hear it, and like there's like, you ever have like moments where like you're watching a show and like there'll be a moment and you'll be like, I remember watching like the King stuff with like Charmel and Booker, like in the living room of the house I grew up with, and it's like all the little flashbacks, and I'm like, oh my god, or like WrestleManias, like when he faced the Boogeyman or stuff like that, just like little things like that. It just
childhood core memory for Tino there.
Exactly, indeed. For me, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, the Austin 316 starts in 1996 at King of the Ring. Austin said, I just whipped your ass. It's a classic key moment when you look back at it. So, yeah, good times all around here. A to the K Wrestling Show. Fantastic. Subscribe to them on YouTube if you haven't already. Honestly, it's a great time with them. Anytime you have Bret versus Perfect, it's a good time. Absolutely, indeed. Great to see it. Roger is going to go to his favorite station at the end of this. That's not PG, Roger, and you know it.
Where's the meme at? That's not PG.
Well, we've had a knockout tournament here, yeah, Roger, you carry on yourself, my friend. Ray, I'm not going to put this on screen just because it might upset Nick Steve, who's talking about the Premier League finish, unfortunately. But hey, it is what it is. But you're happy Man City won it, really? He's a Man United fan. Anyway, that's all from us anyway. And it's Steve, you'll be joining me tomorrow. We will be talking King and Queen of the Ring predictions live as well. And obviously, someone will be doing a stream of his own this week on that is, well, he does streams and everything this week. Double or Nothing has he's got his stuff with baseball. Going to be doing Raw later this evening. Gaming. He's got everything going. In fact, he doesn't have any time off because, well, literally every time around the clock is Tino's time, ladies and gentlemen. Tino, tell everyone about your YouTube channel, please.
Hey, I appreciate it, Steve. And thank you, Steves, for having me on the show. It's finally nice to be able to do a show with both of you guys. So, and I always sit here and I always love watching the retros and all of the shows. So, yeah, I'll be live all week. I got gaming episodes. I got stuff, everything. King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. We are on the road to 3K now. So, we just hit 2K. So, thank you to everybody if you have not yet subscribed. So, I appreciate you, Steve, having me on, and thank you for doing this. We'll have to do another retro at some point or down the road or something. But, yeah, a lot going down this week and a lot,
There's a
Happened.
lot of wrestling, a lot of wrestling indeed. Like I say, make sure you subscribe to Tino
Never
because
ends.
he's on the road to 3K. And if you go and keep an eye on that channel, you might just see this face here pop up on our video in the very near future. But look after yourselves and each other. Thank you all for watching. If you watched and enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to this channel as well. Also on the road to 3K, looking to try and hit that milestone. So make sure to do so as well. And thank you all for watching and taking the time. Go and watch this show if you haven't seen it, of course, in the flesh. It's a good time, good fun time. But look after yourselves and each other. And the next rewind will be announced on the communities tab very shortly, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. See you next time.
Deuces.